In a realm ruled by men, Sir Emeka was known far and wide as a noble knight, a man of unwavering faith and boundless charity. He walked among kings with the guise of a god, his armor gleaming like celestial fire, his name sung by peasants and priests alike. He gave alms to strangers, rebuilt churches, and held hands of dying soldiers. He was a devout Catholic who never missed Mass. He was by every account a living legend. The common folk hailed him as a philanthropist, a savior descended from the heavens. To them, he was not merely a knight, but a living saint, a testament to divine grace. And when the inevitable embrace of death finally reached for him, it would not be a gentle surrender. Instead, it would be a descent into chilling mystery and stark terror, a final agonizing act that would tear away the mask and expose the monstrous wickedness of a man who had systematically betrayed the very blood that flowed in his veins. Hi, friends. Today's story is about Sir Emeka, a knight, a man who lived his life like a saint. He was a devout Christian and always ready to help the needy. But beneath that radiant mask festered a rot so vile it reached through time itself. I hope you enjoyed the story. Please subscribe, like, share, and kindly drop a comment. Emeka's generosity, a celebrated virtue to the world, stopped abruptly at the threshold of his own king. His mother, her body a fragile case of bones, racked with relentless pain, languished in silence. His brother Toby, a poor man, wrestled with poverty and the cries of his starving children. Yet Emeka, swimming in riches that could have eased their suffering 1,000 times over, never extended a single merciful coin. Worse, he was happy to see them in poverty and would do anything to ensure they remained poor. When his brother collected a loan, he made sure the lender increased the interest rate so Tobe, his brother, would make no progress. Tobe reached out to him on several occasions for help. Tobe, his voice a raw whisper of despair, tears tracing paths through the grim of his hands, reached out to his brother. Emeka, brother, please I beg you. The children, their ribs showed through their skin. You are the only one. Just this once. Help us. Sir Emeka, his eyes, usually so full of pious light, now glacial and devoid of warmth. His voice, a sharp cutting edge. Help you? Did you give me any money to keep for you? You will learn the harsh lessons of survival as I did. Do not darken my door again with your pathetic pleas. And so, the years bled into one another, each marked by the deepening frost of Emeka's cruel indifference. He didn't merely ignore their plight. A perverse satisfaction seemed to bloom in him at their suffering. When Tobe's daughter got admission to school, he ran to his brother. Please, your daughter has gained admission. Please, my brother, help me in any way you can. She is not my daughter, please. You should have thought of the cost before having a child. Stop acting entitled. I owe you nothing. Sir Emeka spat at him. Tobe could not understand why his brother hated him so much. He gave scholarships to others, He gave financial aid, empowered strangers, but refused to help him. One day, Tobe's little son fell ill. As usual, he went to his brother for help. He knelt, he begged, he cried, but Emeka refused to help. Tobe's son died because he could not pay the hospital bill. People began to wonder why Emeka hated his family so much. Did they hurt him? What could have gone wrong? Even if he hated his brother, did he also hate his mother? But Emeka was unbothered. He continued to do his good work to strangers, to the church, to everyone but his king. On that sad day, his mother fell ill. Tobe had no one to turn to. His brother would certainly turn him down. What could he do? There was no way Tobe was going to lose his mother. He had just lost a son. He thought to himself, since his brother preferred to help strangers, he sent a friend to help him beg his brother as if it was he who needed the help. And as expected, Emeka helped the stranger with some money, which he then gave to Tobe. Tobe took his mother to the hospital and she began to receive treatment. She survived. Shortly after rendering help to this stranger, Emeka began to feel uneasy. Something was wrong. Sometimes he would awaken in a cold sweat as he was being pursued in his dreams. He could not understand the source of his problems. One particular moonless night, he woke up with a fit. He was being pursued by strange figures. He could hear their voices in his head. They looked unreal. Emeka lost peace. He began to emaciate. On the very night his thread of life was severed, he was again chased by blue-looking figures in his dream. He woke up drenched in sweat. He was happy it was only just a dream. That night, it was not just a dream. He could see the figures of his dream right there in his room. He ran, ran, and ran again, but the figures only laughed. The more he ran, the harder they laughed. You cannot run. You cannot hide. Your death is due. Your soul belongs to us now, said the strange figures. Emeka had broken the rule. He had given money to his family. Emeka's blood ran cold. His hands trembled violently as he clutched his chest. A searing pain blossoming within him, as if unseen claws were tearing at his heart. It was as if the very darkness he had so eagerly embraced was now consuming him from the inside out, dragging him down into a personal hell of his own making. No, no, what have I done? Please have mercy. Someone help me. But only silence answered his desperate plea. His body began to convulse, his muscles locking in rigid spasm as if bound by unseen chains. His eyes, wide with adulterated terror, darted around the room, seeing horrors that no mortal eyes should witness. His chest heaved in ragged, shallow breaths, each one a painful reminder of his fading life. It felt as if the very shadows in the room had solidified, wrapping around his heart, squeezing the life out of him, slowly, agonizingly, bit by bit. It was over. They drained the very last breath out of him. And then, with a final shuddering breath, The darkness claimed him completely. His lifeless form slumped forward, his wide, staring eye fixed on the unseen terrors that had claimed him, forever frozen in a mask of ultimate horror. The villagers, their faces edged with shock and bewilderment at Sir Emeka's sudden and inexplicable demise, gathered in somber silence to commit his body to the earth. The people came in large numbers. Sir Emeka was a good man. They were sad. They cried. The priest's solemn prayers hung heavy in the air, but a palpable unease ripped through the crowd, a sense of something profoundly wrong. As the heavy oak coffin was lowered into the freshly dug grave, the very ground beneath their feet trembled with a low guttural rumble. They suddenly felt very cold. Then, as the priest concluded the last rites, the earth shuddered violently. A collective gasp escaped the villagers as figures in red materialized from the deepening shadows. Hooded figures whose faces remained hidden in the gloom, yet whose presence exuded an aura of unmistakable menace. Cultists. The leader of the cult stepped forward, his voice resonating with an unnatural force that seemed to vibrate in their very bones as he addressed the terrified crowd. Some mourners fled. This man, this so called paragon of virtue, he made a pact with powers older and darker than your feeble minds can comprehend. He stole the very sustenance from his own flesh and blood to feed his insatiable greed. He foolishly believed he could amass power without paying the ultimate price. He thought death would be an escape. But death, for such as him, is merely a transition. Some people watched in petrified silence as Emeka's grave began to convulse. The cult leader continued. His soul was ours the moment he sealed his treacherous bargain, the instant he condemned his own kin to suffering. And now we claim him. He is rightfully ours forever. Emeka was born poor as with his brother Toby. Oh, how he hated poverty. He did everything to escape poverty. He relocated to Lagos, did menial jobs, went to night school, but everything seemed not to work. Then he made a pact with the devil. He became rich. He was very rich. Emeka had spent his life inflicting suffering upon others, a callous architect of despair. For every person he had ever helped, every beneficiary, he got something in return. He got an increase in his lifetime, while the beneficiaries of his so called good deeds got a reduced lifespan. He would never die. He would remain rich as long as he continued to help the poor in exchange for their life, and as long as his immediate family remained poor and never benefited from his riches. As Emeka's desecrated remains were dragged back into the shadows by the cultists, his carefully constructed illusion of piety shattered, revealing the monstrous truths behind. The philanthropist, the hero, was exposed as nothing more than a hollow shell of evil. His vast wealth, built upon the agonizing despair of his own family, and now his eternity would be a torment beyond mortal imagining. But for Tobe, a fragile tendril of relief began in his ravaged heart. The oppressive darkness that had suffocated his family for so long had finally found its true source and departed, and with it, the crushing weight of his brother's relentless cruelty. You thought you could break us, Emeka, but even in death, you have set me free, said Toby solemnly. And so, the man who had skillfully deceived the world, who had concealed his malevolence behind the mask of generosity, was no more. His name would no longer be whispered in admiration, but in hushed fear, a chilling cautionary tale passed down through generations, a stark reminder of the darkness that can fester beneath the most virtuous of appearances, and the terrible price of betraying one's own blood.